Today I will discuss one miscellaneous topic on alcohol. It is written in your syllabus, and I will discuss about the metabolism of alcohol, biochemical changes and effects of chronic alcoholism. Actually, some additional information I will give because you will get many patients who will be basically alcoholic, and there is a deficiency of training of the medical personnel, even doctors, regarding alcohol-related behavior disorders, presentations, and the problems associated with it. It is normally handled by the psychiatry department, by the Dehydrogenase center, but medically it is important. Before I introduce, let me tell you that I have missed honors marks during my time in pharmacology because of alcohol only. The first question which was asked to me, alcohol causes euphoria, whether it is apparent or real. In fact, this was not written in our book, and obviously I said something. Can anyone say alcohol causes euphoria? Euphoria, do you know the meaning of euphoria? Means sense of well-being. Is it apparent or real? Particularly in low doses, that is also asked. I said apparent. Then the examiner said, no, this is real. Can you tell me the cause? I had some idea, and based on that idea, sir, it is related to reticular activating system. I mean, it inhibits the reticular activating system. Yes, that is the answer. Sir, it was not written in our pharmacology book. From the physiology book, I read it. It's really a real euphoria, because this reticular activating system, I mean, have you been taught the brain physiology, anatomy? Brain? So you don't know the term. You will be taught in detail in physiology, particularly about the reticular formation, network of neurons or meshwork of neurons, which is present in the central portion of the brain. It is having an ascending part and descending part. It is having several nuclei except cranial nuclei. It extends from upward thalamus, subthalamus to downwards to spinal cord. Basically, this reticular system is concerned with mental alertness, emotional expression, and several inhibitory functions normally we exert. In addition, muscle tone and other activities. In fact, in low doses, this part, this inhibition, particularly social inhibition, normally what we adopt, is lost. That's why there is a sense of well-being. So alcohol specifically inhibits reticular activating system, and that is the reason the feeling after taking a small amount of alcohol, particularly when someone drinks alcohol, in the initial phase, there is a sense of well-being, and that sense of well-being basically is the cause of alcohol addiction. In fact, the examiner asked me whether I have tasted alcohol, I have drank alcohol. I said no. In fact, even now, at this age, I have not tasted alcohol at all, because I have seen many families got destroyed, many persons suffered from diseases, many families were ruined. That's why I made a point that I will not take alcohol despite several provocations, and usually in a conference my position is within the ladies who don't usually drink. Anyway, this is an important area because if there is any damage to the reticular formation, there will be persistent neuropathic pain. So, initial phase of alcoholism, you need not write all these things. I will tell you at the end what part you have to write. So, there is an inhibition of the reticular formation, that is why there is loss of social control, inhibitory control, and that is the reason of sense of euphoria, but later overall depression defect occurs because alcohol is a sedative and it is a central nervous system depressant. It depresses almost all activities. As the alcohol level goes up, I will put in a slide that you note down what happens when the blood level goes high and what is the limit. So, mechanism of action of alcohol is basically on the central nervous system, and where all neurochemical materials are working. So, the behavioral effects, as you have seen physically in the movie, also what happens when a person takes an alcohol. There is a gross disorder of behavior, even movement, muscle incoordination. At times you have perhaps seen the patient lying on the road in a deep sleep condition, but they don't die. So, even if it is consumed in high amounts, usually death do not occur until and unless it is very, very severe. And second thing is chronic alcoholism is of medical importance because it affects many systems, of which you will note down at the end of the class. I will go a little faster. So, if someone takes alcohol at one point of time because of the continuous damage of the neuronal cells, at least 80 to 90% of the serotonergic neurons of the brains are lost, and that is a permanent loss. So, one of the things is that because of the social inhibition which goes away when the person is in alcohol, the person tells the truth. And in many situations, I am telling you deliberately, those who are little bit fond of taking alcohol are offered alcohol so that they start drinking, and actually they tell the truth. So, there is a famous quote. So, under oath, under oath means before the court of law you have to take an oath that you will not tell a lie. But when at that time you are conscious and you try to suppress many facts, so many people tell lie even after taking oath. That is called perjury. You will read in forensic medicine. That is well known, but under alcohol, usually persons divulges the truth, and this is exploited by many things. Be aware of it, and don't get tempted to take alcohol because the person who is offering to you might have an ill intention, and that might be recorded also and may be used. So, that social filtering part or social inhibition part is lost in the initial phase, particularly if you take it in a small amount initially. So, that initial effects of that euphoria will be there, and in that phase people will start telling the truth or the real facts. So, in medical practice, you see, it is having a diverse effects. because many body systems where neurochemicals are involved, alcohol also acts. And in lower income group, people take alcohol for some reason or other, maybe because of want of money or several problems, but it is quite common in well-educated and affluent section, and I am sorry to say that in medical conferences for last 40 years, 35 years, I have seen doctors are taking alcohol, and many doctors really wait for the alcohol, when the alcohol will be served during dinner. And they attend the medical seminars, a few of them basically of alcohol, because that will be available free of cost. Alcohol is restricted absolutely in Bihar and in Gujarat, Mizoram, Nagaland and Lakshadweep. But in a restricted way they allow. In other states it's not banned. Bihar is a totally dry state. So in the large majority of setting you will get an alcohol patients who have taken alcohol. Only problem is that those who are chronic alcoholic, they require alcohol daily. So after alcoholism, if they sustain an accident and if they get admitted, then there will be dual problem. You have to deal with the accident, at the same time the person will not get alcohol. So alcohol causes physical dependence, unlike tea. If you don't get a tea in the morning or in the afternoon, at least you will not be mad, you will not suffer from any kind of withdrawal symptom. But alcohol causes physical dependence on prolonged use, and that will cause withdrawal symptom, and the patient's behavioral activities or the clinical presentation will vary. So that might be misleading, and you cannot supply really alcohol in the hospital setup. So that part you must remember. Whenever you are in a doubt, after everything is settled, very casually inquire whether that patient is alcoholic or not, because many of the educated person and affluent person do take alcohol and they get addicted, and maybe every day they take, and that causes dependence. Second important thing is that alcohol induces enzymes, and these enzymes, apart from metabolizing alcohol, also metabolizes other drugs. It basically accelerates. I will tell you in a short while. So if you give the drug, either the drug will be metabolized at a faster rate or that drug will cause toxicity. You will not get the desired effect. That part you have to know. And whenever you are giving an medicine to an alcoholic patient, you must know the details of the metabolism of the drug, whether that drug is metabolized by that particular enzyme which is induced by the alcohol. Accordingly, you have to decide the dose, or you have to withdraw. You have to ask the patient not to take alcohol. I will give you one example. Second, at high doses, it can mimic many medical conditions like depression, anxiety, behavioral disorder, which might mimic a psychiatric problem, even a diabetes also, because alcohol causes diuresis. So patient will complain of polyuria, even alcoholic ketoacidosis patient might come with just like diabetic ketoacidosis. So at times there is a diagnostic confusion also. And even if there is withdrawal, there is a hangover symptom. So that hangover symptom you will not be able to fit with any diagnosis. A lifetime risk for alcohol is 20% in men, because men take alcohol more, and in nowadays society women also take alcohol. In the lower community, tribal community, I have seen the females have take also alcohol because of the compulsion. But in that educated class also women take, but a very small percentage. So many people asked me during my professional life, a small amount of alcohol, HDL can increase HDL, can I take it alcohol daily? I said no. The beneficial effect is there, definitely a low dose 1 or 2 drinks per day. It increases HDL level, which is called so-called a protective HDL cholesterol. And second thing is that it decreases platelet aggregation. That is basically prevents the coronary artery, the thromboembolic phenomena. These drugs are basically given to a coronary artery disease patients or those who have suffered a stroke to prevent aggregation of platelets, so that small microemboli are not formed. So alcohol prevents that formation. But in that low dose, patient feels euphoria, and that causes addiction. That's why I told, forget about the beneficial effect of this thing. You will be addicted to alcohol, which will be dangerous. That's what I don't want you to alcohol to get these beneficial effects, so-called beneficial effects. A red wine also again is having an additional health benefits because of the flavonoids. Another good point with aging, there is a dementia and Alzheimer's disease. It also prevents that. But again, I am telling you, because of the temptation of this beneficial effect, don't ever get addicted, and like me, try to avoid alcohol as much as possible. The basic reason why I have not taken, the day the pharmacology teacher said me that it causes euphoria, I thought by chance if I feel euphoria, I might get addicted also. So I might be addicted also, so that's why I have decided I will not take alcohol at all. So alcoholic drinks are available in many formulations. Like in West Bengal, I am telling you, one is called haria, which is prepared exclusively from rice, and that is consumed mostly by the tribal people and the poor people. That contains alcohol 2 to 3%, but because of the rice content, that gives some amount of nutrition also, and also it gives a probiotic. So that's something good, and they drink it during, throughout the year. Palm juice, tari, what is called in Bengali, that also causes that is an alcohol also. Bangla, which contributes 39% market share in West Bengal, is very much common in West Bengal, and people take it, it is a grain based or molasses based. And since if you are practicing in West Bengal, be very careful about this thing, because I am living in a village, I know most of the persons are addicted to alcohol. Feni is available in Goa. I visited Goa and it is available in the market openly. So beer, wine, alcohol, sherry, vodka, rum, gin, all these things you might have heard or someone might have tasted also. You know, the alcohol content of this varies widely. In addition, alcohol causes congeners because that affects taste and contributes to adverse effects like butanol, like acetaldehyde, caffeine, tannin, iron, lead. In fact, what happened, one day one patient in 1993, I still remember, that patient gave blood for fasting blood glucose and fasting PP blood glucose. It was normal, but his urine sample, warning sample was given to the pathology department, which came out to be positive. And I was in a deep confusion. Then I allowed the patient undergo a oral glucose tolerance test, and I could not find anything abnormal. At the end of the day, at the end of experiment, and before handing over the report, I inquired from him categorically on the preceding evening of that giving evening sample, what you had taken. The person divulged that I had taken alcohol along with something. Because of the congeners or whatever he has taken while taking alcohol might have contained something which has affected Benedict test, and that is the reason Benedict test was positive. I told him that at least before giving any blood sample or urine sample, at least don't take alcohol for 7 to 10 days, because otherwise the same thing will happen. You will get a wrong report. So be careful also while you are giving samples for analysis. If the person is alcoholic, there might be some abnormality. So absorption is major part is from small intestine, but from the mucous membrane of mouth and esophagus, small amount is definitely absorbed. So if a person takes a small amount at a time, so a considerable amount of surface area is there in the oral cavity and mucous membrane, it will be absorbed. And the importance why I have said it, so modest amount is absorbed from stomach also and large intestine, because if you take adequate amount, then only it will reach large intestine, but before that most of the things will be absorbed by the small intestine. Major amount is absorbed by the proximal part of the small intestine, that is duodenum and jejunum. Because it is having a microvilli, I think all of you have seen, this is a finger-like projection. So they remain like this. So if I spread it, the wide surface area is there, from which maximum amount of absorption will take place, because of the large surface area. Depending on the amount of alcohol, how much you are taking, the alcohol will be absorbed, I mean from 10 to 30 minutes, and it reaches a peak within 30 minutes to 90 minutes also. So rapid gastric emptying, if you take alcohol or if anyone takes alcohol in an empty stomach, because there is no interference, it will be absorbed very quickly. And if there is a food, particularly fatty food, then it will delay gastric emptying because of the pyloric sphincter. So some delaying will be there. So usually people take alcohol with some amount of food and in a gradual phase, that's why its absorption is slowed down. So age, gender and presence of food also affects alcohol absorption. So why I have said this thing is that if you look at the venous drainage part from the face, venous drainage is through facial vein, lingual vein and maxillary vein. It drains into internal jugular vein. From the upper part of the esophagus, inferior thyroid vein to subclavian vein. From the lower part of the esophagus, it is from azygos, hemiazygos vein directly to the superior vena cava. The basic part is that whether it is internal jugular vein or subclavian vein, it is directly going into the superior vena cava right to the right atrium and to the left atrium through circulation. Basically, it is delivering directly into the systemic circulation. But from lower third to rest of the part, the venous drainage is basically through portal system and either through left gastric vein, right gastric vein, gastroepiphytic vein, pancreatical vein, superior mesenteric vein, inferior mesenteric vein, all are linked to portal system, and the portal vein enters into the liver. So liver basically metabolizes alcohol maximally, almost 100% is basically metabolized by the liver, and then only a small fraction comes out into the alcohol. So if that is bypassed and alcohol is delivered directly into the systemic circulation, a rapid effect will occur, and why rapid effect occurs, that also I will explain it in a short while. So that is the importance why I have said this thing slide, because If you do know the anatomy, then you will understand the impact of physiology and biochemistry also. So, alcohol maintains, this will be taught in your pharmacology class. There are two orders of kinetics of drug metabolism, and alcohol is a xenobiotic, it is a drug. Alcohol maintains a mixed order kinetics. Initially, when a small amount of alcohol is taken, because the enzyme saturation capacity is there, so initially all the enzymes will not be occupied by the alcohol molecules. So, there will be first order kinetics, but once that is saturated, it will maintain zero order kinetics, and see the difference between the first order kinetics and the zero order kinetics. A constant fraction of the drug is metabolized per unit time, means a constant fraction, either it may be 10%, 20%, whatever the percentage, that percentage will remain fixed. But in zero order kinetics, a constant amount, that amount is fixed. See the difference. I have given an example with a high value. Suppose 2 doses of a drug A with 20% clearance, 20%. Remember, 20% means if I give 1000 milligram, so after 1 hour 20% of 100,000, that is 800 milligram will be there metabolized, and then in the second hour its 20% is 800, and then 512, and then 409.6. If you make it in 1000, the figure will be basically multiplied by 10 times. So, that much amount of drug will be cleared from the body by through elimination. So, a first order kinetics because allows the drug, a major portion of the drug to be excreted. In contrast, since the amount is constant, you see for the alcohol, suppose you have taken alcohol 1000 milligram, after 1 hour 800 milligram, after 2 hours 600 milligram, that 200 milligram is fixed. So, even after 4 hours it is 200 milligram. So, here it is 409. Now, if you take 10,000 for the example, so here it is 4,960, it is cleared, eliminated. So, here it is only 2,000, almost half, I am telling you. So, once you take alcohol, the rate of clearance will remain fixed, but the blood level will go high up. So, there will be a rapid effect. So, that is the reason why alcohol, rapid effects are given. Seen in the zero order kinetics drugs, only a limited number of drugs undergo zero order kinetics. Most of the drugs, if you give a higher dose will be excreted also proportionally because of the maintenance of the first order kinetics. So, plasma concentration will be proportional to the this metabolism will be proportional to the plasma concentration, but it is independent, because if you take large amount will be present in the blood. So, in higher doses, basically if you take a drug medicine, whatever it is given, it is safer, but zero order kinetics there will be toxicity because high levels will be there. So, most of the drugs are following first order kinetics, but alcohol maintains a zero order kinetics. That is the reason why its effects are prolonged. So, metabolism of alcohol, coming to this part, that is most important, you must know. So, alcohol, this is the part which you have to know as a biochemist. So, alcohol means ethyl alcohol. So, alcohol by this time you have heard the name of alcohol dehydrogenase. Say alcohol dehydrogenase. It will form acetaldehyde. Here one NAD molecule will be there. And NADH will be produced. here aldehyde dehydrogenase will be there, aldehyde dehydrogenase. So it will form acetate or acetic acid. In addition to this system, there is one called MEOS, microsomal ethanol oxidizing system. It is called MEOS. In small form, it is associated with microsome. Microsome is basically smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So another part, when the alcohol concentration is high, this system operates, and that causes also conversion of alcohol to acetaldehyde, but it requires NADPH. To NADP. Remember, here NAD is used, NADH is produced. In the same reaction, NAD is used, NAD is used and NADH is formed. So if one molecule of alcohol is oxidized, two molecules of NADH will be produced. So it will be again oxidized and it will give at least 5 molecules of ATP. In contrast, here if NADPH, which is normally used for the synthetic purpose, is getting used by this system. So this is important when the alcohol is consumed in higher concentration, and this is an inducible enzyme. Means when somebody takes alcohol, this enzyme is induced. So the mechanism of chronic alcohol adjustment or tolerance is because of the metabolism by this enzyme, and this is a cytochrome. This is present in the smooth endoplasmic reticulum or microsome. So this is a cytochrome P450 group of enzymes. So these enzymes, this set of enzymes are involved in detoxification of many drugs. So if the level of this enzyme is increased, so metabolism of the drugs will be affected, and depending on the type of drug what you take, what the patient takes, there will be damage to the hepatocyte also. And remember one thing, that alcohol to acetaldehyde, this part occurs in the cytosol. Acetaldehyde, being a small molecule, crosses the mitochondrial membrane very rapidly, and this reaction occurs in the mitochondria. Mitochondrial matrix. So this alcohol, first part alcohol to acetaldehyde, this is within the cytosol. Acetaldehyde to acetate is in the mitochondria. It enters mitochondria by passive diffusion. Okay. So this acetate gets converted to acetyl-CoA, and then it is carbon dioxide and water. Finally, that is the way it is disposed of. So acetaldehyde is a toxic substance because it interacts with the protein and causes damage to the hepatocytes, and that excites an inflammatory reaction which causes fibrosis of the liver and cirrhosis finally. So what happens basically, This aldehyde ALDH enzyme is inhibited by disulfiram. Its trade name is antabuse. It is given in the somebody wants in the de-addiction center to inhibit this reaction. Disulfiram is given. So disulfiram inhibits this enzyme, means there is accumulation of acetaldehyde. This acetaldehyde accumulation will give a feeling of nausea, vomiting, headache. Patient will suffer from some kind of uneasiness. To get a person de-addicted from alcohol, this drug is used in the clinical setup. And metronidazole, what you know, this causes basically irreversible, inhibition of ALDH enzyme. In contrast, many of us have taken metrogyl. Metrogyl means metronidazole. That also inhibits ALDH, but through a reversible Van der Waals force and hydrogen bonding. And that, since it inhibits aldehyde, dehydrogenase, it causes also a disulfiram-like reaction. So those who are chronic alcoholic, if metrogyl is taken for diarrhea or for some other things, so they will have a feeling of nausea, vomiting, headache, something uneasiness because of the disulfiram-like reaction, because of inhibition of ALDH. So only if the alcohol is taken in excess amount, there will be gradual induction of this microsomal enzyme system. You must remember this is cytochrome P450, a mixed function oxidase. So that will cause basically it will metabolize own metabolism, and also it irregularly will affect the metabolism of other drugs, and the toxic effects of that drug may not be same or unique, and it will vary considerably from drug to drug. So as I told you, it's a two-step oxidative process. I have explained in detail. Ethanol to acetaldehyde occurs in the cytosol, and this second part occurs in the mitochondria, and there is microsomal oxidizing ethanol oxidizing system at a higher concentration. And this is induced on chronic consumption, and there is one more enzyme that is called catalase, which accounts for the minor pathway 20%, 2% only, but it plays a significant role in brain. So it is one of the believed to be the primary mechanism for ethanol oxidation. So this is what I have discussed. So this is a schematic diagram. So this is cytochrome P450 enzyme is denoted with the CYP name. The two name is 2E and E. This nomenclature is there. So it indicates something. So this is one enzyme, only ethanol to acetaldehyde, since it is involved. And here you see it is the enzyme, coenzyme is NADPH. So one important NADPH we are losing because of the high consumption of in the ethanol to acetaldehyde formation. So some amount of synthetic functions will be compromised because that is required. At one stage you will see the person is chronically alcoholic, so that metabolism, that pathway will not also operate. So there will be deficiency, and that is the reason why they suffer from other metabolic functions, alteration in metabolic functions. So enzyme induction, you see the enzymes induction are multiple in nature, because this is enzyme inducer drug. The enzyme inducer drug is basically alcohol here. So there will be enzyme induction, means this enzyme will be induced, it will be produced in more amounts than microsomal enzymes. These microsomal enzymes can cause faster metabolism, it causes faster degradation. The substance which it is producing, like alcohol, it can produce its own metabolism also. And secondly, unpredictable response to drug, that is what is the most important part which you must know. And clinically, this is also used in newborns, because newborn may suffer from jaundice, neonatal jaundice, because of the immaturity of the glucuronidase transferase enzyme. Phenobarbital is a drug which is used to induce glucuronidase transferase, so that glucuronidase transferase will conjugate bilirubin and it will be excreted, so there will be clearance of neonatal jaundice. So phenobarbital is used as an enzyme. This property is exploited. So to rapid clearance of neonatal jaundice, a number of enzymes, particularly cytochrome P450 system, are induced by alcohol. So these drugs causes different type of reaction like mixed function oxidase or hydroxylation reaction. In the enzymatic class, it will be told. In addition, I will take one other class also on anti-difference mechanism. I will discuss in detail. So alcohol dehydrogenase, only note down it is having a 5 isozymes. No, need not write down all these things. Only write down there are 5 isozymes. Class 1 to class 4, major class, and there are subunits like alpha, beta, gamma, pi and psi. These are the units. Like hepatic forms is class 1 form, it forms alpha, it is a dimer. Dimer is alpha alpha, beta beta and gamma gamma is present in the liver, because liver is the main source, main area of alcohol metabolism. So note down only liver. So class 1, it belongs to class 1. Class 2 is there. In some persons, it's the alcoholic dehydrogenase enzyme might be mutated with increased activity. So it will produce increased acetaldehyde. So that can cause a reaction, increased reaction. So rapid toxic buildup of acetaldehyde will be there, and the patient will suffer from flush syndrome. I will show you the picture in a short while. So women process alcohol as a relatively slower rate because of the slower expression of the enzyme, and the level of activity varies from person to person because of the allelic diversity. Gene polymorphism, genetic polymorphism is there. So allelic diversity is there. Someone might in a low dose might be having alcohol toxicity. Some may not be, because of that variation of the enzyme concerned. Second, as I discussed you, this ethanol to acetaldehyde to acetate, this ALDH enzyme, aldehyde dehydrogenase, in the de-addiction center, categorically this disulfide drug is used, which I have told. It inhibits ALDH by covalent adduct formation, and that causes an irreversible inhibition of ALDH, and that causes nausea, vomiting and headache, which is deliberately induced so that the patient will feel uneasiness, and in course of time he will be de-addicted. And metronidazole, as I told you, metronidazole occasionally we all take for diarrhea, and if it is a chronic alcoholic, there will be a similar type of reaction. But here it is a non-covalent reaction, as I told you, it's because hydrogen bonding and van der Waals force. So ALDH deficiency, this can occur also. So there will be a slow acetaldehyde removal, and there will be the same symptom of high acetaldehyde content, that is called alcohol flush syndrome or oriental flush syndrome, that occurs in ALDH deficiency. I will show the picture. So usual effects, note down. Usual effects are this 20 milligram, that is a decreased inhibition and a feeling of slight intoxication. This is taken from Harrison latest medicine book. So you need to remember, or you can copy it from the book to save time, because we are running short of time, only 10 minutes are there. Only thing is that you remember, so most of the people, blood alcohol level is within 200 milligram per deciliter, but the people, there is a slurring of speech and incoordination of movement, motor incoordination, there is irritability, but light coma and depressed vital signs you might have seen on the road. People are, simply lying on the road deep in deep sleep. But 400 milligram causes death, because death usually do not occur for those who are alcoholic. Because by the time it reaches 300 milligram, patient is having, starts having comatose, but before that will start having sleeping. So he will not be able to take a high amount of alcohol. But if he takes a high amount of alcohol in the beginning, before this sets in, because that induction of sleep sets in, he may die also. So this is the effective level of blood alcohol in the absence of dependence. Remember, if there is a dependence, this figure will not hold true. So ethanol in blood is expressed in milligram or gram per deciliter. So I have given a picture. This is taken from Lawrence book, which I read purchased in 1983. You see, there will be effect of drug driving. Basically, you will get multiple effects, because the person is going to cause such an accident, and that is a factors which affect the genetic metabolism is genetics. Because of the genetic variation of ADH and LDH, there will be speed of metabolism will be affected. And chronic alcoholic use, I told you, it will be induction of meos. It becomes active with high consumption, and with the increased formation of conversion of acetaldehyde, there is increasing radical, free radical production and reactive oxygen species, that also causes damage to the hepatocytes. Elimination is 90% is metabolized basically by the liver, and the rest is excreted unchanged in the urine, sweat or breath. Because those who are alcoholic, perhaps some of you have smelled the alcohol in the breath also. And acetaldehyde toxicity, acetaldehyde is a highly toxic substance. It reacts with the proteins and causes inflammation and cellular damage, which is the basis of alcoholic liver disease. Redox potential is altered, because NADH to NAD concentration will be very high if somebody is taking alcohol. So there will be shifting of metabolic reactions. So basically, pyruvate will be converted into lactate. So lactic acidosis will be there. So lactic acidosis will cause hyperuricemia, and it can cause also the gout. So alcohol flush syndrome is basically because of the deficiency of the acetaldehyde. So this is what is alcohol flush syndrome. See, there is a normal look, and this is the flushing syndrome. The face is red, and even the body trunk will be also red. That is called alcoholic flush reaction. Or Asian flush syndrome, this is common in Asian population, particularly in East Asian. They are deficient in aldehyde dehydrogenase. So distribution is in the blood. Once it is distributed, once it is in the blood, it is distributed throughout the body, and it enters into the cell. So blood alcohol measurement is required. It is by gas chromatography. It is the gold standard. Enzymatic method is there. Infrared spectroscopy is there. At high concentration, as I told you repeatedly, 10 to 20% is oxidized by the meos, and direct excretion of alcohol, if lower concentration is 2, and at high concentration is 10. Alcohol acts as a diuretic, because it inhibits ADH production, so there will be increased formation of urine. If somebody doesn't take a high amount of fluid, then there will be also patient will suffer from dehydration. So alcohol breathalyzer test is done to check alcohol level in the blood. So there is a one preliminary alcohol screening which the police takes during patrolling, and it gives a rough idea what the person is supposed to has crossed the limit. He will be taken to the police custody, and there is a better instrument which is evidential breath test, where it is recorded the actual blood level indirectly from the breath, because in the alveolar air there will be this alcohol will be excreted, and when somebody deeply expired, then the alcohol content will come out, and from that alcohol content of the breath, indirectly blood content level will be measured, and legal limits are there. So, in police station or in particularly in airports, evidence breath test machines are there, and you as a medical person may be required, to do this test, and everywhere this test is done by the medical personnel or trained medical person or safety staff, security staff, safety officer. So, permissible level of blood alcohol in India in motor vehicles is about 30 milligram, but in flights it's absolutely zero, and something happened in Ondal airport in 2017. I will divulge because this is being recorded, I will not tell the truth what happened to me. There are air safety norms. Absolute on 3 decibels there will be zero tolerance. It's a mandatory breath test for all the pilots, co-pilots and the cabin crew. In the railways also the same rule applies. Because shortage of the time so alcohol is called an empty calorie. I do not know why it is called empty calorie, because alcohol gives 7 kilocalorie. Only thing is that it is devoid of minerals, vitamins and proteins. So, it interferes with the absorption of vitamin from intestine, and also there is a modest defect in the modest storage of folate, vitamin B1, B6. Metabolic priority, alcohol is a toxin, so it is metabolized at a faster rate. So, folate, vitamin B1, B6 and vitamin A, and inefficiency of metabolic processing, because the deficiency, the actual calorie what we get per gram of alcohol is basically roughly 5 to 6, because that is utilized by the body. Additional calories is obtained if there is a food content like those which are prepared from rice or which contain sugar, so additional calories are there. So, weight gain after taking alcohol is because not only because of alcohol, but they indulge in overeating, because when somebody is in drunken state, he takes on taking more food. So, that is an irregular consumption, and regular consumption of this alcohol may cause weight gain also. So, biochemical alteration, first and foremost the alteration of NADH ratio to NADH ratio, that will convert favors formation of pyruvate to lactic acidosis, and lactic acid causes hyperuricemia, so it can precipitate gout. So, deficiency of pyruvate means there will be deficiency of formation of oxaloacetate. So, there will be decreased gluconeogenesis, and there will be hypoglycemia. So, reduced oxaloacetate, reduced pyruvate and high NADH will basically favors, it will inhibit the TCA cycle, so it will favor ketogenesis. In contrast also, increased fatty acyl CoA will be there, so that causes increased formation of fatty liver and steatosis. It causes, as I told you, during formation of acetaldehyde, there will be reactive oxidant species, and that causes mitochondrial damage, that is responsible for apoptosis. And at the end, you note down two important things. One is N-methyl D-aspartate, NMDA. NMDA receptor is the excitatory receptor, and GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid receptor, is basically gamma-aminobutyric receptor is causes CNS depression. So, I will cover rest of the thing during your SGD class, because I could not cover all the things sir has come. So, acute toxicity will occur when the blood alcohol level will go more than 150 gram per deciliter. Alcohol poisoning is a severe life-threatening condition. You have to admit the patient. You can first and foremost stop the alcohol and then start treatment. And if it is severe, if the patient needs to be hospitalized. You read something about alcohol. Again, I will be discussing the rest of the things in a SGD class. I will take a special class on SGD. So during that time you ask also question, and something important part I have missed it because effects of chronic alcoholism part is left. So that part I will deal in that class. All these things are not written in your book. That's why something I have covered. The other things you will get in the book, and some more things are there that I will discuss in the SDH class. Okay.